go. All right, it's 6:30 tonight, April 7th. I'll call to order this meeting of the Sturgis City Council. The first item that we'll attack on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand and help recite the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, item 3 on our agenda is approval of the agenda. Is there any counselors that want to make a motion to approve the agenda or amend the agenda?
I motion to call for an executive session before announcements and praise, please.
I'll second.
Okay, an immediate, but you do approve the rest of the agenda as presented?
That is correct.
I'll second that.
Well, Nick second. Do you agree with that,
Yep,
that
that's
adjustment? Eric, do you have a comment?
If the purpose is to consult with legal counsel, I would just ask that the motion reflect that it's to go into executive session pursuant to SDCL 1-25- consult with legal counsel about pending litigation or contractual matters.
Could you repeat that possibly?
Yeah, with the mic on this time?
Yeah.
Yeah. If the purpose of going into executive session is to consult with legal counsel, I would just ask that the motion reflect that we will be adjourning into executive session pursuant to SDCL 1-25-2, subparagraph 3, which is for the purpose of consulting with legal counsel about potential litigation or contractual matters.
Yeah, what he said. We'll go with that.
So you amend your
That is
motion
correct.
to reflect Eric's statement?
And I would second that.
You
Yep.
second it that way? Is there any further discussion on the motion or the second? Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Okay, that was unanimous. We will now adjourn to executive session for 10, 15 minutes. Is that what you expect this to be potentially? Hopefully less. Very good. We appreciate the patience of the gallery as we complete this portion of our meeting. Okay, we're declaring executive session over, and we're going to continue on with our agenda as we had indicated. Item number 4 is announcements and praise. Jim, are you willing to provide some announcements and help us get the praise going tonight?
Okay, we'll start, I believe, with our pastor, Dusty Hess, is here, the pastor of Hope Church, and he's here to pray for us this evening. Dusty, appreciate that, Pastor.
Lord, we just come tonight and we thank you for this community we get to live in, and we thank you for our city leadership and everybody that works so hard to keep things moving every day. And we just pray for this meeting tonight that you'd give us wisdom and discernment and help us work together to make good decisions for our community. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Pastor. He's one of 5 pastors that meets every Wednesday to pray for the city, and so we don't take that for granted. Thank you, Dusty, for participating. And by way of announcements, this is Library Week. Check in the library. I'm sure Chris and the staff have lots going on this week. I know that there's a showing of quilts, and so if you're interested in that, and also tomorrow's Election Day. So if you haven't voted and you're eligible in wards 3 or 4, then this would be a good time to turn out for that. And it'd be nice to have a nice turnout. We've had some pretty poor turnouts in the last few elections, and it would be nice if people took this seriously. So pass the word for voting tomorrow, 7 to 7. It'll be at the community center.
Jim, would you clarify that for the general public, that some of us don't need to vote?
As I said, it's wards 3 and 4.
Right, but that, remind the 1 and 2 why we don't need to vote.
There's no election in wards 1 or 2, and that's because we have the people that have, either nobody ran against someone there.
We have only one candidate.
Yeah, or there's no turn. I mean, there's nobody running. So there's only the wards 3 and 4 that have candidates running.
Yeah, competition, yeah.
Those that,
Thank you for the confusion. Anybody else have any announcements that we may have missed? Brandon? Okay. Mr. Mayor?
All right, thank you, Jim. Item 5 on our agenda is non-agenda matters that may come before the council. So if anybody has an item that they wish to address the council on, right now is the time to make that happen. And again, this is for items that aren't on the agenda some other place.
Kevin, I don't want to be confusing, but we did get public praise, and there were a couple things I wanted to say.
We asked.
I didn't hear it. It sounded like it was.
Listening is so important, and you may sure do that if you'd like.
Bonnie, you're fine with adding your public praise. It doesn't look like we have any other matters before council, so I think that can fit both categories there. Will you come to the microphone, please?
I do just want to say what a whale of a job the chamber did on the meeting and presentations this last week. And I've not paid a lot of attention to that in the past. I know when it comes, I know when it goes, but I haven't participated. But they did a whale of a job for saying we've got a staff of 3 doing that. They co-opted with the community, and it was such a nice event and presentation. And I want to give credit where credit is due. They have stepped up and agreed to do more for the city as it is, as we've talked through the budget processes, and I just want to throw the light on what they're doing. So that was.
Thank you, Bonnie. They do a fine job at our chamber. They're representing our community well. You know, I guess if we want to continue down that line, you know, I certainly appreciate those election workers that will be at the polls all day, 12 hours tomorrow, and then completing the counting board doing the counting afterwards. So good work with those people that are being part of our community. Is there any other non-agenda items that anyone wants to speak about? Anything from the gallery? We got lots of students here. All right, continuing on to item 6, department updates. 6.1 is Public Works Cemetery Division update. Rick, can you tell us about the condition of our cemetery?
Better I can show you. All right, so wanted to give you guys a little bit of an update on the Bear Butte Cemetery. As you know, the Bear Butte Cemetery is a historical landmark in Sturgis, South Dakota. It's known for its rich history, serene beauty, and various services that it provides. Established in the late 19th century, this 24-acre cemetery became a city-owned cemetery on June 1st, 1953. It serves as the final resting place for veterans, pioneers, and notable figures. Reflects the heritage and cultural significance of the region. Bear Butte Cemetery is located on the eastern end of Sherman Street in South Dakota, rests atop a picturesque pine-covered hillside overlooking the city. The 24-acre cemetery became a city cemetery on June 1st, 1953. The cemetery features covered shelter near the entrance, containing a directory to assist the visitors in locating burial sites. Notable for its serene environment, Bear Butte Cemetery serves as a resting final place for many individuals, with records indicating over 5,600 memorials. The cemetery's proximity to Bear Butte, a geological formation sacred to the Lakota people, adds to its historical and cultural significance. This serves as the final resting place for many veterans, pioneers, and notable figures. A few of those are Bruce Barnes. He ended up actually was one of the first salaried manager of the Black Hills Motorcycle Classic. I did not know that. So interesting. Of course, Pappy Hoyle, the grandfather of the rally, the starter of it. Harry Atwater, he was a lawyer. He was well known for being a 4-time mayor in Sturgis. Francis Higbee Case, American journalist and politician, served 25 years as a United States congressman from South Dakota. And then, of course, J.J. Davenport, who started out our water system. So lots of history up there, a lot of notable people up there. Some of the other things up there are the scenic beauty. It's surrounded by breathtaking landscapes and peaceful settings. Features some very unique tombstones and memorials. Along with a well-maintained grounds. And it really offers a tranquil space for reflection and remembrance. Some of the services that we provide up there are traditional burial and cremation services, perpetual care and maintenance of the grave sites, and then memorial services for the community to gather. This picture here kind of shows the legend if you get onto the city website. The different colored sites on there mean different things. We have the green is available, the red is reserved, or the magenta. The red is restricted. Anything that's blue is sold, and then the darker blue is sold with a burial. I think it's important to note if you look at we have 8,063 cemetery lots within the cemetery. 5,371 of those are sold with a burial. 1,173 remain sold but unfilled. We have 297 that are restricted. That means when they're restricted, either they have a tree there or they may have a rock outcropping that prevents a burial there. But currently, this was as of when I ran this report on the 1st, we have 1,222 spots available. So, contrary to some of the word on the street that we're running out of space, we probably have a lot of years left up there. If you look at some of those historical statistics, if you look from January to April of this year, we only sold 6 lots. In the past 12 months, we sold 31. In the past 36 months, 139. And in the past 60 months, 181. So again, with over 1,200 spots there, we have years and years worth of space available up there. One of the new features that we're going to talk a little bit about tonight and actually have a first reading of an ordinance is a scatter garden. Scatter garden is a dedicated space within a cemetery or memorial park where cremated remains can be respectfully dispersed, providing a serene and meaningful way for families to honor their loved ones. A scatter garden is a special kind of garden located inside of a cemetery that can be used for scattering a person's remains after their cremation services. More and more cemeteries have started to incorporate scattering gardens into the mix, and so many people are being cremated these days. These gardens are often beautiful and peaceful places tended to by the cemetery or memorial park, and may include features like benches, trees, and flowers. Some of the benefits that they offer are the convenience. Scattering gardens are often located within cemeteries, making it easy for families to visit and remember their loved ones. Peace of mind. They offer a respectful and appropriate place to scatter ashes, providing closure and a sense of performance. The more memorialization, the scattering garden gives the family a permanent and accessible place to remember, reflect, and share with future generations, and the ability to have a record of the final resting place. And then finally, flexibility. Families can choose to scatter a portion of their loved ones' remains in a scattering garden, even if they wish to be scattered in a personally meaningful location like an ocean or a forest. Here you can see this is kind of an aerial view of our Bear Butte Cemetery. That gold arrow there is where our new scatter garden location is going to be. We have started it. We hope to have this open in time for Memorial Day, and these are just a few pictures leading up. That's the pathway leading up to the scatter garden that's pioneered in. And then on this bigger picture to the right, you can see that's actually, it's kind of about the size of a golf tee. And that's where we'll have a fence up there, and that's where you will actually be able to scatter the remains. So we do intend to put some benches up there and create a really nice, unique spot for people to have some reflection. One of the other things that we're pretty excited about is we're going to add a new software, the Sims Burial Search. It is actually a program that allows people to search their loved ones, and it will actually give you walking directions to the memorial site. I got a quick video here.
Burial Search is the public portal to the data you enter into Sims Cloud. This allows the public to look up information about their loved ones in your cemetery from their home or even their smartphone. It's no longer necessary to print a map for them or use your staff's time to find a burial.
So that'll be a nice service that we add, and that will actually end up working for the entire cemetery, the entire directory. We do think that it probably in the future, more and more of it will be online. We will still maintain the book directory, but the map and the layout will probably go away. There'll be a way to either some instructions of how to get on the site, or there's actually a QR code that you can just take a picture of, and it will automatically open it up, and you put the person's name in, and it will show you how to get there. There's other information that is stored on there. You can see the memorial, the gravestone. You can upload the obituaries and any pertinent information. We have a lot of that information already historically gathered, so we're going to be working with the company to get that uploaded. Yeah, it's kind of those 6 items down there are things that software brings to us. So pretty excited about that. We look to have that online by Memorial Day. Finally, in conclusion, the Bear Butte Cemetery is more than a final resting place. It is a site of history, respect, and tranquility. With its natural beauty and dedicated care, it stands as a treasured landmark in Sturgis, serving the community for over a century. It remains a place of remembrance for generations to come. So that's the end of what I've got to show you. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Maybe just some final comments from the staff perspective. You know, as Rick pointed out, you know, we have several years of use. If you look at it, you know, 1,222, you got about 190 being used a year. However, you're starting to see a lot more people do the cremation side of it with the scatter garden. So we have an opportunity for this to last, you know, beyond a decade or more when it comes down to having space available. There may be some other areas also that we would have to do some equipment work to be able to create some more available spaces. So we got some time here. As we get into our comprehensive and our strategic plan, though, we're looking out 10, 20 years. Well, that's still probably a good question. What would long-term would we be looking at when it comes down to continuing having a cemetery that would that the city could use, you know, for the next, you know, 40, 50 years. But again, we got time, and that's the key thing, is that we have time to even to go through this with our strategic plan and come up with some ideas on how we can continue to have that service, you know, well into the future.
Thank you, Rick. I didn't realize the city got the cemetery or purchased it or whatever. Are cemeteries lucrative when they sell? I guess it's interesting how that process went. We'll have to talk about that more later. The SIM software, that I think one of the discussions we had also indicated that when available, you could link to obituaries. Correct?
Correct. There's a part in there. I'm not sure that you necessarily link to them. You have to download them and put them in there. It doesn't link to like the newspaper or anything, but there is a version that will have it in there.
We can add the obituaries. So I mean, that's a good plus for genealogy research in the future. So great. Anybody have any questions about Rick's presentation on the cemetery?
Is there any, the scatter garden, will there be any cost for that or maintaining?
There will be there be a minimal cost, and I think we're going to address that later on in the meeting in the first reading of the ordinance. But I believe what was being proposed, Jim, was a $100 fee.
Right. And will that be available to residents or non-residents, state residents?
Correct.
Anyone?
Anybody. Just the same as the cemetery now. You know, we have a lot of people who that's their final resting place that aren't residents of Sturgis, but have chosen to go up there. If they buy a lot, you know, they can use it how they see fit.
Scatter garden the same way.
Would be the same way, correct.
Any questions from the public? All right, continuing on. It's in a building for our financial reporting. We've got some information that's starting to come out about our 2025 budget expenditures. And do you have something you could share with us on how you got there, and maybe?
I went through and looked at it. Everything looked good. Everything was within that 25%. At the first quarter, you want to be 25% or less of your spending, of what's been spent. Then the enterprise funds, I went through that. Everything looked good there. The wastewater and the water, they look high. They look like we're spending too fast, but that is because of the SRF funds, the loans. We have to pay that out up front, and then that gets reimbursed, and then that will reflect back to the budget. Well, today in the department head meeting, we asked that each of the department heads look through the report that went out. And I got a call from the community center, and Rod's didn't look right, didn't look correct. So we kind of went through that, Aaron and I, and found some other discrepancies. So at this point, I want to go back and make sure that everything is right with all of the budgets, and come back next month or next meeting with a new report and make sure that everything is right.
Okay,
It
so
looked like community center was doubled, and I don't know how that happened. So,
doubled on the positive side or
yes,
the negative
yes,
side?
he was pretty excited. He was very excited. He had
Yeah.
$1 million budget. He was excited.
Money's no object for Rod in the community center, yeah. All right, well, thank you, Anna. That is something that is important, those monthly financial status reports. And of course, we've got some other pieces that are coming in but we're taking the steps and we're making some things happen. So
Right.
good work and good job working as a team to figure out maybe where there's some discrepancies because, we are starting to use all the features of our software that we haven't in the past, so.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you. 85th Rally, City Manager Jordan, do you,
Yeah.
or City Administrator, sorry. Old habits done.
Well, I called you governor once, so what the heck.
Yeah,
Well, just want to give you an update on the work that we've been doing in preparation for the 85th Rally. If you bring up that report, please. Yep. The dates are 1 through 10. That's that Friday, the 1st of August, through Sunday, the 10th. Next slide, please. Our primary, responsibility is, providing a safe, clean environment, for the people that live here in Sturgis and our residents. And as we go into the next slide, you can kind of see how that's reinforced. What we've done in 2024 and what we did in prior years, you can see on the left side, all the events that the city was responsible for, the coordination and the execution of. And you can see what we're doing in 2025. That first one, the Chiefs Ride, the Police Chiefs Ride, we are working with the POW to see if POW wants to actually run and coordinate that event. It's an event that's continued to grow. It's probably about 20%, maybe a little bit less than that of what the numbers that we normally have in the Mayor's Ride, but it's one of those kind of iconic rides that people have enjoyed. But again, this may not be something that city's going to be working on. This would be something that PAL is going to be working on. And so over the next couple of weeks, I'll have some more clarity on that particular event. And then the other 4 events, you got the opening ceremony, the Mayor's Ride, and then the military appreciation. And that will be coordinated. And then also we got the Harley Point bands. Last year we had 28. This year we have 12. If you go to the next slide. This is on the left are the bands. These are the bands from 2024. And you can see there was 28 of them from us, and then there was also 4 that Harley Davidson they put on. And then this year we're looking at doing 12. Last year, we usually started those bands around like 11 o'clock in the morning, sometimes earlier, and then we'd have 3 or 4 of them through the morning, afternoon, into the evening. This year, we're looking at doing them late afternoon, evening type of events. And again, that's really goes back down to what was appropriated in the budget. I think the year before we had like 44,000, and this year we have 16,000. This is our calendar of events. Those highlighted ones are the ones that especially the opening ceremony, Mayor's Ride, and military appreciation. Those are the ones that we're going to be working on. We're still working with the staff on determining who's the kind of the POC, who's going to be the lead for each of those events. The one that we do have is the Mayor's Ride. That's going to be Lance Shear. Lance will be the lead for that event. And then we have slides that we've been working on and identifying other people within the city who are going to be providing some support in terms of setting up and executing those events. We do have some open questions, like with opening ceremony. We're still working on who that grand marshal's going to be, who's going to be some of the VIP folks that we request to be speakers and whatnot. So we're still working through that piece of it. It looks like we do have Clydesdales again, so we'll have to think about, you know, what that event looks like to be able to incorporate them into that activity. Military appreciation, you know, we got the request out to Ellsworth Air Force Base for the B-1, maybe looking at with the National Guard too with the helicopter. To have, I think it was a bookended, Mayor, that we were looking at bookending, you know, the military appreciation. So we're working through those requests. We do need to identify the honorees. We got a lot of good options out there. I'll be setting up a meeting here with the Rally and Event Committee with some of you guys who are participating in that. So we can maybe kind of whittle down and make a good decision as a group on who those honorees are going to be. So if you go into the next slide. Now, this is kind of the meat and potatoes. This is, you know, the city staff, you know, executing this event to make this, like I said, a clean and safe environment. And those are all the departments. If you go to the next one, finance, up on the top left, those are all the activities. You know, we got our normal operations. We're doing the vendor license processing. We start that a week prior to the rally. And we got some vendor inspections. We have a lot of law enforcement that come in, so we have some support to in-process those folks into our system to be able to provide that support. You can see on the bottom left some of the supporting agencies from the state of South Dakota. They're here during that initial part of the rally, primarily working in this particular room. Resource requirements, personnel, this is probably the one department where we have a little more work to do. You know, we're starting to fill the finance department back up to 100%. Some of the departments that used to support, particularly the inspections, we don't have those people right now. So we're working through, on some of those, we're getting those filled, but we will identify people that are either on the staff or we can bring some people in to work as kind of like a seasonal during the rally to be able to provide that support. On the calendar of events, that first event is training new personnel. So the 14th of July through the 24th, if we have new people that are going to be supporting the finance operations, we'll bring them in and start training them on what those tasks are. Primarily, again, those are going to be down in the vendor inspections primarily. Next slide. Looking at Public Works, you can see a lot of activities going on with Public Works prior to the rally even beginning. You can see it up on the top left, you know, the sewer lines, getting them jetted out, sweeping city lots, hanging banners. There's a lot of activities that Rick and his team is going to be working on prior to the rally. And as we get close to the rally, that's when they start doing their night operations. That's when they clean the streets. That's when they're going out and picking up the garbage from those totes and then taking them up to where they're dropped off. From a personnel perspective, Rick has his personnel already identified. He has his seasonal. So we don't expect any additional personnel requirements on the public works side of it. And he's also using all his equipment, no special requirements on their part. You can see some of the key dates. They'll start working Monday through Friday, the full day operation starting on the 14th. For those that use the recycling center up on exit 32, that will close on the 24th. And then starting on the 31st of July, that's that Thursday, they'll start working their night rally operations, doing the activities that we talked about. Public safety, specifically law enforcement, you can see all the tasks and activities, foot patrols, car patrols, motorcycle patrols, bicycle patrols, parking teams, investigating team, and there's a lot of supporting agencies, federal and state, that are working within that law enforcement realm. This is the one activity that we require a lot of support. We bring in law enforcement, some contract security to be able to provide, you know, a safe location for the people here in Sturgis and for the people that are attending this rally. Still working through that. Don't see any issues with that for 85th. But again, that's a lot of personnel requirements. We don't necessarily put the numbers up there. We don't necessarily want people to know what our size is. You know, it's kind of trying to make 10,000 look like 100,000. You know, we want to make whatever we have for law enforcement like they're scattered around, and to help maintain that safe location. Next slide. An area that we still need to develop is public safety with fire and ambulance. I have a meeting with Jody, our acting director, James Hale, and our police chief, Scott Lindgrens, here on Wednesday to kind of work through those operations. Done a little preliminary with James Hale with the ambulance side of it, but we need to fully develop that and understand those operations and kind of understand what their support requirements are. But feel pretty comfortable about that. I mean, I think we're not doing anything different than we've done in the past when it comes down to EMS and fire. Next. Community center. You can see the activities up on the left side. During the actual rally, the gym is closed. That's something that Harley Davidson uses. Other than that, they have everything else as normal operations for fitness. You know, they provide shower support. They make some money on that. They support some of the activities that are going on. They provide personnel to help us out with the armory and getting that set up for the vendors that are located in the Sturgis Armory. And in the past, we've had a first aid station that was coordinated with city ambulance there at the community center. Liquor store, you know, normal operations. You can see that 8 to 9, Monday through Saturday, 10 to 6 on Sunday. But starting during the rally on that Thursday the 31st, we'll extend those, open up at 7 a.m., go to 11 p.m. On Monday through Saturday. And then that last Sunday, the 10th, they'll be open 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And they're primarily just doing what they usually do. Maybe one of the things that's a little different maybe is etching. You know, some of the customers have them etch things onto the bottles of liquor that they're purchasing. We do use the front part of that building and that parking lot for some vendor space, but other than that, it's just normal operations for them, just extended hours. Next. Sponsorship. You can see the activities up on the top left, sponsorship. We got the branding, licensing, the TT race, and the VIP lounge hosting. Don't require any additional personnel. You know, Lance was supported primarily by the library. You know, will be able to execute those events, primarily the VIP. We did put it out a new RFP, request for proposal for catering. In the past, we've had to provide a lot of personnel to support the catering aspects of it. This time, we're trying to get it where they can just take care of all of themselves, and we're not using city staff to be able to do the catering aspects of it. Library, they're closed the 1st through the 10th. However, the folks that work in the library are really, really busy. You can see they're still doing book pickup services Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. They do maintain their online services. Potentially, if there's a need, they can also deliver a book. They do make their rooms available for people that may need to use them. A lot of times that's the rally attendees. They start doing some deep cleaning and start preparing for some of their programming projects for the upcoming part of the year. They also support the Mayor's Ride, Military Appreciation opening ceremony. So there's some great teammates there as they're kind of, you know, taking care of the stuff they do during the rally, but they're also providing support to their other events. I think that's it. Is that it? So we will be meeting about every couple of weeks, continue to just do all the coordination, dot the I's, cross the T's for all the activities for the rally, but I feel pretty comfortable where we sit right now. I think the fact that we're trying to do something that's more manageable, you know, we're kind of focused in again on the clean and safe streets in town versus, you know, spending a lot of effort and time trying to provide a great experience for those attendees. We do have a couple events, but there's a lot of other stuff that are going on, either provided by other local establishments or other businesses in their area. So our intent is to focus in on those key events: military appreciation, the open ceremony, the Mayor's Ride, and then make sure that we're doing our normal activities to make sure that we have a good, safe, clean event. So pending your questions.
Thank you, Aaron. Good amount of information there. And obviously, you've been working on this pretty heavily with the team. Looks like we're going to have a rally, and it's going to be a good one. Does anybody have any questions? Comments? Members of the...
I have a question. Has our Rally and Events Committee met yet?
Not yet.
Do we have a date that we plan on meeting first?
I'd say over the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
And that was more on me. After I had that I was going to do it right before I had hip surgery, and other things kind of took up the time, but we'll get something set up.
Any comments from the rest of council? Questions? How about from the audience? Anybody have a comment on the rally presentation? Bonnie?
I just want to say that I've been around a long time, and I really appreciate the analysis of what it takes to have the rally, that structure. And I don't think a lot of us get it, but to see it like this is really, really helpful. And to see what we've done in the past and the changes that you've decided to make to fit within our resources, it is really good and clear, nice and clearly done. And I don't know who did your PowerPoint, but really attractive, really nice and easy to read. And thank you for this presentation, because this is the stuff we need. We all need to understand what's going on with the rally and in our town, and this helps so much, Aaron. Thank you.
Thanks, Bonnie.
Thank you, Bonnie. All right, no other questions on the rally presentation? We'll continue on to the mayor's report. We've got a couple of adjustments here. 7-1 is appointment of our interim ambulance director, James Hale. We've got some replacement staff after Joyce Ealer's retirement. In Public Works, we've got a new police officer, Anthony Panza. Hopefully I didn't murder his last name. Hopefully we see Anthony out helping keep our community safe and sound in the short term here. We've got a short-term building inspector that we're going to be using, and of course that's a part-time non-benefited position that we're using there. And then obviously 7.5 is our rally-related wages and adjustments that we make. Continuing on to item 8, our consent agenda. 8.1 is to approve the minutes from the March 7th meeting. That's the only item on the consent agenda tonight, so not really too hard to ask to remove an item. The consent agenda we act on as a chunk, and tonight it's one item. So does anybody have any comments, or are they willing to make a motion on the consent agenda?
I'd make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
We've got our first to approve the consent agenda by Jim, a second by Nick. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor indicate by stating yes.
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 Those opposed, no. Item 9 is approval of the claims. Does anybody have any questions or comments on the claims? Hearing no questions or comments, is someone willing to make a motion on the claims?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the claims as presented by Tony, second by Jim. Those in favor of approval of the claims indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That motion carried 6-0. Item 10 is a public hearing. Consideration to approve the renewal of retail on/off-sale malt beverage and South Dakota wine licenses for the 25-26 year, and make that, and that's per state law, contingent on payment of property taxes. So this isn't that nobody has asked us to not allow them to pay property taxes. We just are making sure that they're paid before we issue the liquor licenses. Does anybody have any comments about any of the licensees? Chief, everybody's compliant. Been no comments on anyone?
And is everybody on our end with them too? Like all the fees and stuff? paperwork?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Shenanigans has to come in tomorrow morning.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, is there anyone willing to make a motion on the renewal of the retail on-off sale malt beverage and South Dakota wine licenses?
A motion to approve.
Second.
We got a first by Tony, a second by Jesse to approve the list of license renewals for the 25-26 year. Is there any further discussion? No further discussion. I'll call for the vote. Those in favor of this motion indicate by stating yes.
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 Those opposed, no. Nice, that item was 6-0. Reports, 11.1. Consideration to award North Trunk Line Phase 2.
Evening, Mayor, members of the council. If you remember, back earlier in 2024, the city successfully applied for and received a loan from the State Revolving Loan Fund from the Board of Water for $10,339,000. The city received that loan amount at a low fixed rate of 2.125 amortized over 30 years. This loan will be paid through the current monthly surcharge of $11.10 that is currently in place. As a part of this report that was submitted for that loan, it was determined that the current sanitary sewer mains were both undersized and lacked the appropriate grade to carry the influent to the wastewater treatment facility. The current pipes run at capacity during average flow periods and back up during high flow periods. Taking no action would not solve the problem, and it was recommended that in addition to the North Trunk Line project to help mitigate the current overloading problem and to handle the additional growth to the north in the future, that several main lines and sewer manholes would need to be placed along the Dudley Street corridor. This is phase 2 of a possible 3 phases that were included in our funding application and approved by the South Dakota DNR. Approval of this project will allow for the needed upgrades for the sewer infrastructure that will enhance public health and safety by reducing the risk of sewage backups, overflows, and associated environmental hazards. Aging sewer systems are prone to leaks, blockages, which can lead to contamination of groundwater, local waterways, posing a threat to community health and local ecosystems. Additionally, replacing the outdated sewer lines will improve the system's efficiency, leading to better wastewater management and reduce maintenance costs in the long run. This proactive investment can prevent more significant issues and costly emergency repairs in the future. The budget impact for this project is our state revolving loan fund for the project has been awarded and the means of repayment have already been established through the current surcharges. There is no additional funds that will be needed to be used to repay for this phase of the project. The staff is making recommendation that the council authorize the award of the Dudley Street Corridor Sewer Replacement Project to Halmy Incorporated in the amount of $1,012,279.40 and authorize the signing of all contracts and documents necessary to complete this project. With that, I would answer any of the questions you may have.
How did the bidding come in, Rick? Is it below the engineer's estimate?
The bidding was, actually, the engineer's estimate on this was $1.767 million, and we came in at 1.012, so significantly under the estimate.
Yeah, $700,000.
And we had 6 bidders. So pretty interesting, all 6 bidders were either East River or from North Dakota. We didn't have any West River bidders on this project.
And just so that we state it publicly for that, who is the winning bidder?
And I hope I'm not butchering it, Halmy Incorporated, Halme Incorporated.
And they're out of
Watertown, somewhere up there. There you go.
outstanding. Anybody have any questions for Rick on this SRF loan-funded project?
Rick, I might ask why you think we wouldn't get any West River people. Was there no one?
I think the current work environment here and climate, everybody's kind of busy with ongoing projects, and there tends to be a lot more contractors on the eastern part of the state and not near as many projects going on over there. I think the ones that are going on over there are very, very large. People are seeing, I think that a lot of these companies also may be trying to get out into this neck of the woods in anticipation of the B-1 or the bomber wing that's coming to Ellsworth.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the bid process for this trunk line? Is anyone willing to make a motion?
I'll motion to approve.
Second.
We've got a first to approve awarding this contract by Ruth, a second by Alex. Is there any further discussion? Those in favor of this motion to award the project for the North Trunk Line Phase 2 indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That motion carried 6-0. Item 11.2 is a request to enter into a billing service agreement between the City of Sturgis Ambulance and the Physicians Claims Company Incorporated.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight I come before you asking for permission to enter into a billing service agreement, as you spoke of, with the between the City of Sturgis's Ambulance Service as well as the Physical Claims Company, otherwise known as PCC. A little background and history on this. Sturgis Ambulance has historically managed all patient care and transport billing in-house. However, due to recent leadership changes and a desire to streamline billing processes while minimizing delays, we're seeking to enter into a billing agreement with PCC. PCC is well known throughout the Black Hills area and used for other services and used by other services, including Spearfish and Rapid. Our goal with this transition is to alleviate the burden on staff, allowing them to focus on core functions of the ambulance operations. Additionally, we anticipate that outsourcing billing to PCC will enhance efficiency, increase revenue, and ultimately strengthen the financial sustainability of our ambulance service, which, as you know, operates under an enterprise budget. The agreement, if approved, is going to be in effect for 3 years from the effective date. The agreement will automatically renew for successive 2 additional year terms unless either party gives other written notice at least 90 days before the end of the current term. Fees based on PCC's fee base is 8% per month of a net collections. So currently there's no specific budget impact for this agreement. However, the intent is that it will ultimately contribute to the increase of the ambulance budget. All fees associated with this agreement are structured to be covered by the net income generated from billing, ensuring financial sustainability without requiring upfront allocations of funds. So we would ask, staff recommend approval of this authorization and ask that permission be given to the city administrator to sign the agreement to move forward as soon as possible. And I stand by and try to answer any questions if you have them.
What's the cost of that? Is it a percentage?
Yeah, it's there's a base fee of 8% off of net collected, so it's going to depend on what we bill out and what we
It's
bring
on
in.
collections.
Yes.
If they don't collect, they don't get any money. And that's the net collected piece, so our costs come off of the top of that. So it's essentially off of the profit portion.
Correct.
I would just ask, how long does insurance give you to put a bill in? You know what I'm saying? Before it expires. Does that make sense?
It's a good question. I think there's variables. I do know, I've been told by PCC that the VA, for example, pays their bills relatively, as long as you bill within 30 days, they'll pay 100%, but most insurance companies, I think, reasonable amount of time, unfortunately, I don't know what that is. I mean, some may be 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, but I think the sooner the better. I think the longer that's waited, the less likely we're gonna get the full amount back.
And that's anticipated using PCC, that they get the bills out in a timely manner, obviously, I assume.
Yeah, we're working on getting trip reports done as soon as possible. So of course, if a trip report's not done by the end of the evening and maybe it goes into the next day or the next week, that of course delays it. So we're working on streamlining the process there through with our interim director to get some efficiencies done on our reports completed by the end of the shift and in a timely manner. So that way this stuff will be forwarded immediately to PCC to bill immediately or as soon as possible.
I think this is a good change. I mean, in some cases, we've kind of been paying 2 times for some of our billing. I mean, obviously, we're doing some billing in-house. Ends up going to a third-party collection company that takes a scoop off as well when, you know, if we don't collect right away. So I think this brings it all in under one house. For me, one final question would be, are they looking at any of our backlog? I mean, do we have any cases that are out there that they're going to pick up, or do they start at the contract date?
So I did some reaching out and I sent an email and tried to see if I can remember exactly what it said, but they pretty much going to be a hard date. Once we start this agreement, they can, but we're going to rely on we currently have a company that's doing the collections. We're going to rely on them to continue with the stuff that's already in collections, as well as our in-house billers will be doing the current billing of the stuff until that transfer date. Our hope is that maybe once this agreement's signed, that tomorrow, the next day, it'll start. So that'll be kind of a hard line of where the transfer is. So from that day forward, PCC will handle it up to that date. Our in-house billers will handle that.
Jody, I have a clarification question. When it says it automatically renews for successive additional 2 years terms, is that 2 additional 3-year terms, or?
I believe it's 2 additional 3-year terms,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Outstanding. Any other questions? Someone willing to make a motion on this contract to engage with Physician Claims Company for ambulance building?
I'd make that motion.
Second?
We got a first by Nick, a second by Jim to approve signing a contract with Physician Claims Company Incorporated. The only thing that I would be interested in adding is when we get a final contract, we should make sure that our attorney looks at that final piece before we sign it. Calling for the vote. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed? That motion was 6-0. 11.3 is first reading of ordinance 2025-01. First one for the year, and this is an ordinance amending Title 6, Chapter 3, Section 11 of the Municipal Code to permit the establishment of a scatter garden at Bear Butte Cemetery.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. The current city ordinance does not allow for the cremated remains to be disposed of by scattering the remains within the Bear Butte Cemetery. Staff believes that an amendment to the ordinance to allow for a scatter garden will provide another service to our residents and increase the longevity of the Bear Butte Cemetery. So up for your consideration tonight is the first reading of this amendment. Contained within your packet is a copy of proposed ordinance 25-01, which simply included the language, no person shall scatter cremated remains within the cemetery except as may otherwise be permitted by resolution of the Common Council. Any cremated remains disposed of in the cemetery shall be done so consistent with any applicable South Dakota laws, including SDCL Chapter 34-26A. And this really gives us the ability to put that scatter garden into place and offer it as a service to the Bear Butte Cemetery.
Nice. This has definitely been a piece that has has been close to my desires for quite a while. I mean, I think it's a good asset to add to the community. Kind of procedurally, we are going to be seeing, I mean, pending approval of the first reading, when we go into second reading, we'll be having a resolution to set the fees and cover the rest of those separately. So that'll be the next meeting on the 21st. I think legal counsel, Eric Davis, I think you had some additions you wanted to look at on this ordinance.
Council, I had just mentioned to the mayor in passing earlier today, I was thinking about this weekend. Rick reached out, wanted to know how we could amend the code to allow this. So he's going to be putting together that resolution that the mayor just referenced. He'll run that by me. One of the points that Rick had raised was just in the resolution, creating some sort of penalty, like in the event that someone came up and scattered ashes in a way that wasn't consistent with the resolution or wasn't in the designated area of the scatter garden. So what I would ask is, if it's the council's desire to move first reading of this ordinance, just to include that I'm going to throw in an amendment at second reading that will just add the violation of this, and any violation of this section will be a Class 2 misdemeanor. That'll give it at least a little bit of teeth. I think it's unlikely that anything will happen, but if someone goes up, violates the resolution, that'll be a Class 2 misdemeanor like any other speeding ticket, or the most common legal violation there is, and the most minor. So that would be my recommendation, which I believe is consistent with Rick's, and we'll just include that on second reading. And so any motion approving first reading can just include that, and we should be good to go.
I think it's also important to note that this did come through the park board. We've been working on this for better part of a year, and they did make the recommendation that we move forward with the scatter garden. They had some input, so it did go through that process.
Excellent. And again, I think this is a good community asset, and as our residents and others have changed their end-of-life plans, this is going to provide those options for that, and also provide a way that genealogists in many generations down the road can track where their loved ones are at. Anybody have any further questions on the first reading of ordinance 2025-01? Would somebody be willing to make a motion and include the language of the amendment that Eric Davis has offered?
I'll make that motion and include what Eric mentioned in terms of the amendment for the second reading.
A second.
Is there any, we've had a first by Jim, a second by Alex to approve 2025 with the addition of a Class 2 misdemeanor for violating the scattering location portion of the ordinance. Is there any further discussion? Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
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 Those opposed, no. Our first reading of 2025 is passed 6-0. Thank you, everyone, for working on this. Item 11.4 is a project update on the 7th Street Crossing project. That's a project that went through some process. We waited for FEMA to approve the piece. It was an item that we kind of waited on a little bit. We went through some funding moves on this, and now we've gotten to the end where FEMA is offering our final payout. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mayor. If you remember back in 2019 Memorial Day weekend, we had some major flooding that caused damage to that particular location. We did see some of the banks erode away. About 400 feet of the bike path was removed as a part of that. And then further on that, in the July 4th weekend, actually July 4th, we did lose those structures there, and that crossing became impassable. We worked, the president did declare that as a presidentially declared disaster, so we began working with FEMA to come up with mitigation efforts on what we could do to put that structure back in. There wasn't a whole lot of options short of when some of that initial mapping was done, the Texas low water crossing was what was mapped. And so whatever project we put together had to come back as a no-rise, which that basically means is that it can't allow any rise on any structure, either upstream or downstream, by putting that structure in the creek. So we did work. This was back when Liz was here as our city engineer. She worked with Interstate Engineering, and they developed these box structures that are currently in place now. We did connect the bike path with that and got that all built. As a part of that process, we did submit those plans to FEMA for their review and approval, and got that. After reviewing all the documents that were provided, the package was closed out. We actually submitted the closeout documents in July of 2024, so almost a year ago, and those were submitted to FEMA. They did an audit of the costs that we had submitted, and there are some of those costs that are not a part of the original scope of work, so they were found to be ineligible. Those costs include $95,924.01, which was a change order between concrete and asphalt that we ended up putting in the concrete. They will only pay for the asphalt, so we had a little bit of an overage there. The other overage was the engineering contract totaling $28,985. This was an overage that wasn't a part of the original approved contract, so that was in $2,015, which was part of a hydraulic study. That was labeled as out of scope. And $6,901, which is basically some in-force labor costs, which are some of the costs that we had associated with through our engineering or through the Public Works Department and doing project management. We do have an opportunity to recapture those costs in another claim that we'll make. But so at the end of the day, the state recommended a total what we submitted to the state was a total cost of $1,520,045.98, and the FEMA audit reviewer finding $1,386,220.43 being eligible. So I think at this point in time, that's probably a pretty good offer. I don't think we do have the opportunity to refute that with FEMA. I don't think that they're going to change their mind. So the staff would recommend and ask the council to authorize accepting that eligible cost of $1,386,220.43.
Thank you, Rick. A quick question for me, just so that we have that. You know, we went through a few different financing pieces. We used a line of credit at First Interstate Bank, which at some point a little bit later, we got a state disaster loan, a low-interest loan through the state. We used the money from that to pay back the line of credit partially.
We got the state office of disaster fronted us $1 million, not necessarily a loan. There's no interest tied to it as long as we pay it back before it comes due. So when we receive this payment, $1 million of it will have to go back to the state.
Okay. And I guess when we receive this payment, you know, pending approval by the council, there's also a decision about the remaining $386,000, what the intended use of that would be. You know, obviously we still have a line of credit outstanding at First Interstate Bank, but we also are quickly approaching a time that we'll see a cash infusion with our first half of property taxes, but we have quite a few bills as well coming in, so we'll have to manage that when we receive that check. How long do you think that will take for that payment to?
I think it comes pretty quick once I have to reply back to the South Dakota office and tell them that we basically accept that offer and that we're not going to dispute it, and then I believe it'll be pretty quick. I did not, and I need to ask him because it will come through this, it won't come from the federal, it will come through the state. They may automatically take their loan back out of that and then just give us the, which would probably be the better of the two options than us getting the whole amount and then having to pay them back. But the next step is to let them know that we're good with this.
Any questions from council? Someone willing to make a motion on the potential receipt of the FEMA repayment?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
First by Alex, a second by Nick to close out the 7th Street project for a total of $1,386,220 and some change. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
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 Those opposed, no. That's 6-0. Item 11.5 is legal services retention letter.
I suppose this is me. This is a matter that was brought to my attention by Mr. Jordan, and also included the mayor, included the finance officer. Reviewed some communications from Mr. Price regarding the lease of this building. City staff pulled the lease agreements for me, reviewed those. Essentially what it comes down to, I don't really have much to add other than what's in my report. Mr. Price has terminated these lease agreements. It's my opinion that that's a breach of the lease agreements and that the city is probably owed damages. In order to figure that out, this involves several other third-party lessees. The history on these properties is that the city would lease certain properties and then make them available to others. We've received notice that other people are intending to cancel some of those relationships. It's a complicated matter. It's going to involve a lot of communication. There's a potential for litigation. We don't know yet. This report can be a little bit confusing because it indicates that it was prepared by Aaron, but that's just an error with the software. It was prepared by me. My firm, I just don't have the ability to handle all of this communication and all of the work that's going to be necessary to understand and resolve this matter. I did take the liberty of reaching out to, as I indicated to you, there would be times in my service to you as city attorney that there would just be things that I wouldn't have the bandwidth to handle. This is going to be one of those matters. Nooney Soleil is an excellent firm. Worked with them in several different capacities in my over a decade of practice. Full confidence of their ability to represent the city in this. They offered a substantial discount to their hourly rates. They're matching the rates that are provided by Mike Wheeler at Demersman Jensen, who's acting as conflict counsel. The engagement letter, retention letter that's included in your packet is almost identical and very similar to the engagement letter that we have with Mr. Wheeler, and would be similar to an engagement letter that I would send out. It's my intention to continue my communications with Mr. Nooney, bring him up to speed. He's already been made aware of all the documents. The goal would be to resolve this dispute in the way that is the fastest and most economical, but that also preserves, protects the interests of the residents and taxpayers of the city. So it would be my intention to be back in front of the council as soon as we have some sort of other report that it's either looking like this is something that might be resolved with a stipulation and settlement agreement, or that it looks like there's a potential for litigation. I can't answer that right now, but I will have a report with further action for you when it's appropriate. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Eric. Just for clarification, the Mike Wheeler firm, they were conflicted in this case, were they not?
Correct. It was my intention to reach out to Mr. Wheeler's firm first, as I told you that I likely would based on that relationship. One of the attorneys in his firm had a conflict, and so I reached out to my second choice, which was Nooney Soleil, and they were happy to assist.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from council? Someone willing to make a motion on this engagement letter?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
We got a first by Jim, a second by Nick to approve the legal services retention letter with Nuni Soleil. Is there any further discussion? I'll call the question, and those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That motion carried 6-0. That brings us to the end of our regular session. We did have a very abbreviated executive session in the beginning of the meeting, but we still have our scheduled executive session, item 12.0. We have under SDCL 25-2, a legal item and a contractual items to discuss. Is there some counselor willing to make a motion to go into executive session?
Motion. Real quick, we will not have action after this, or?
There will be no action afterwards. Good question, Jesse. We've got a first by Alex to go into executive session.
I'll second.
Second by Ruth. Those in favor of going into executive session in 4 minutes upstairs indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Again, we'll be back as soon as we can, and there will be no action after the executive session. All right. Good to go when you give the sign there, Rick. All right, we're declaring executive session over, and I'm looking for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second?
First by Jim, second by Nick to adjourn the meeting. Those in favor of adjournment indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
All right, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you.